Welcome back to Beyond Belief. Tonight, we dive into 3 chilling, true stories from college campuses. Stories of eerie encounters, unexplained events, and terror when you least expect it. Whether you're a student now, or a former dorm room survivor, prepare yourself. Let's turn off the lights and begin. It was my first week of university, new city, new room, new life. I'd just finished unpacking my boxes, said goodbye to my parents, and finally sat down to take it all in. That's when my roommate showed up. His name was Evan. From the moment he walked in, something about him felt off. He didn't greet me, didn't smile, just stared at me for a second before saying, "You took the left bed." I laughed awkwardly and said, "Yeah, hope that's okay." He nodded once, slowly, and went straight to unpacking. No small talk. No questions. Just silence. For the next few hours, the only sounds were zippers, drawers closing, and the low hum of his computer fan. I figured he was just shy. But the silence never really stopped. That night, I fell asleep with the faint glow of his laptop lighting up the room. I woke up around 2 a.m. The laptop was still open, but this time Evan wasn't typing. He was sitting upright on his bed, facing me. His eyes were open, but his body didn't move. It was like he was frozen mid-thought. I whispered, "Evan, are you okay?" No response. Just that eerie stillness and the faint reflection of the laptop screen in his eyes. Then, without blinking, he said quietly, "Do you ever wonder what people look like when they sleep?" My whole body froze. I didn't answer. Eventually he turned off the screen, laid down, and within seconds, I could hear him breathing softly like nothing happened. Over the next few days, I tried convincing myself he was harmless, maybe just socially awkward. But then things started going missing. My toothpaste, my notebook, even my dorm key. When I asked Evan about it, he said, in that flat voice, "Maybe you misplaced them." Except when I found my notebook again, there were words written inside it, in handwriting that wasn't mine. "You shouldn't have picked the left bed." That's when I stopped trying to talk to him. Campus orientation weekend came around, and I finally started meeting people. It felt normal people. One afternoon, we were touring the botanical garden near the dorms, when someone in the group pointed ahead and said, "What's that guy doing?" Behind a tree, crouched in the dirt, was Evan. He was running his fingers along the roots, whispering something I couldn't hear. Everyone went quiet. I just kept walking, pretending I didn't know him. Later that night, when I returned to my dorm, the air inside the room felt wrong. The window was open. My clothes were spread out on my bed, like someone had been searching through them. Evan was sitting at his desk, motionless, facing the door. He smiled when I entered. "You weren't supposed to be back yet," he said. I didn't answer. I just sat down, turned off my lamp, and pretended to fall asleep. But around 3 a.m., I heard a faint rustling near my desk. When I opened my eyes, the moonlight revealed him kneeling by my backpack. I whispered sharply, "Evan, what are you doing?" He didn't even flinch. After a long pause, he said, "I thought I heard something moving in your bag." That was the moment I decided I needed to get out. The next morning, I went straight to housing services and requested a new dorm. Thankfully, one opened up across the hall. By nightfall, I was already settled with my new roommate, Ben. Chill guy, into photography, normal in every sense of the word. For the first time all week, I felt like I could breathe. That is, until 2 nights later. I woke up to a clicking sound. Soft, rhythmic, coming from the door. Click, pause, click. Ben stirred in his sleep, but didn't wake up. When I looked through the peephole, my heart dropped. Someone was standing there, their head tilted downward, hair covering their face. But the hoodie, I recognized it immediately. It was Evan's. The clicking was the sound of him twisting the doorknob, over and over, slow and deliberate. I grabbed my phone, called campus security, whispering into the receiver so quietly, I barely heard myself. When they arrived 5 minutes later, I could hear their radios crackling outside. When they knocked, I finally opened the door. They had Evan pinned against the wall. He'd been carrying a dorm key. Mine, the one I lost earlier that week. They escorted him away. He never came back. But sometimes, when I can't sleep in the middle of the night, I swear I still hear that faint clicking sound, as if someone's trying to come in. This story happened to me and 2 of my friends during my time at a small college in northern Pennsylvania. We thought it'd just be a chill night by the lake. We were wrong. Someone or something was already there with us. I went to a small college, surrounded by woods and hills. Behind the main campus, there was a nature preserve, a lake, some old trails, and a few clearings that students used to hang out at when they didn't want to be seen. It was a Friday night in late October. The weather was cold enough that you could see your breath, and most people were at parties or football events. But me and my 2 closest friends, Daniel and Mike, decided to do something different. We packed some beers and went down to the lake for what we called a low-key night out. We found this small clearing on the far end of the water. It was almost perfectly circular, surrounded by thin trees that blocked the view from the trail. We set up a small campfire, cracked open a few cans, and started talking about random stuff, classes, girls, and future plans. The kind of deep, half-drunken talk that only happens in the middle of nowhere. Hours passed without us realizing it. The firelight flickered across the trees, and the woods around us grew darker. At some point, Mike stopped laughing mid-sentence and whispered, Do you guys hear that? The three of us froze. At first, I thought it was just the sound of leaves rustling, but then it got louder. Crunch. Slow and deliberate footsteps. We immediately threw our beer cans into the lake. We were underage, and campus security sometimes patrolled the preserve at night. But the sound wasn't coming from the trail. It was deeper behind the trees. None of us said anything for a while. We just sat there, listening. The steps kept circling us, slow, like someone was walking in an arc around our campfire. Every few seconds, we'd hear a stick snap or leaves shift, then silence. Mike whispered, "Maybe it's a deer." Daniel shook his head. "That's no deer. Deer don't move like that." The next sound made my heart stop, a heavy crack, followed by something large hitting the ground right next to the fire. A branch. Someone had thrown it. We jumped up instantly. Daniel grabbed the backpack, while Mike looked around frantically, his flashlight shaking in his hand. Before I could even process what was happening, another branch came flying, this time hitting Mike in the shoulder. He shouted in pain and nearly fell backward. We ran. We didn't care where, just away from the fire, away from those sounds. I could hear branches breaking behind us, quick, heavy footsteps keeping up. When we finally reached the narrow road that divided the woods from the dorms, we stopped. All of us were gasping for air, trying to convince ourselves it was just someone messing around. But then we heard it again. Footsteps. Coming closer. Stopping right at the edge of the road. We sprinted back to the dorm building. When we got to Daniel's room, we looked out the window that faced the forest. And there, standing near the tree line, was a figure. Too far to see clearly, but close enough to know they were watching us. Every time a car passed by, the figure backed into the trees. When the road went dark again, they stepped back out, pacing back and forth. After about 10 minutes, they finally disappeared, swallowed by the woods. We didn't sleep that night. We just sat there in the dim dorm light, drinking the rest of our beers in silence. None of us spoke about what happened until the next morning, when we realized how close we might have been to something dangerous. We never went back there at night again. It happened during my freshman year, at a small university in the Midwest. I had just started getting along with my new roommate, Tyler. He was the kind of guy who wanted the full college experience. He planned to rush a fraternity the moment rush week started, and he didn't want to go alone. He convinced me to tag along to a few parties before the official rush began. I didn't care about joining any frat, but I figured, why not? It'd be a good way to meet people. The first party he found was on a Thursday night. It wasn't an official frat, more like an underground one, the kind that didn't even have recognition from the school. Tyler said it could be a backup frat if the others didn't accept him. The house was way off campus down by some old houses near the edge of town. Otherwise, it looked abandoned. If there wasn't music coming from inside, you'd never guess anyone actually lived there. We knocked on the door, and this short, sweaty guy in a dirty white t-shirt opened it. He was already holding a red cup and looked absolutely gone. He just said, "Come in, boys," and stumbled back into the crowd. The inside was worse. Dim yellow lights, loud music, and way too many guys packed shoulder to shoulder. It was hot, smelled like spilled beer, and there were maybe 2 girls. They both looked miserable. I tried to make small talk with whoever I could, but every conversation was awkward. No one seemed normal, just drunk, angry, or out of it. After about 20 minutes, I was ready to leave. But there was a big group of guys blocking the door, so I waited a little longer. I was already on my 5th cup of cheap beer when a heavy-set guy walked up to me. He was holding this tiny glass bottle and grinned. "This'll hit harder than that piss you're drinking," he said, handing it to me. Hesitated, but he just stood there watching me, smiling, like he wouldn't go away until I took it. So I took a sip. It tasted awful. Definitely not normal liquor, but I forced it down to be polite. He started talking to me, and every time I tried to walk away, he'd grab my arm or move in front of me, forcing the conversation to continue. Then things started to blur. The lights dimmed. The music distorted, like it was echoing from underwater. My head got heavy. My vision pulsed. When I woke up, I was lying on a bed in a pitch-black room. For a second, I didn't even know where I was. My head was pounding, my mouth dry, and my whole body felt like I'd been asleep for days. There was music playing somewhere far away, muffled through the walls, so I knew I was still in the house. But this room, it was silent. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed a small dresser, a half-open closet, and some random clothes on the floor. That's when I heard it. Crunch. Like someone stepped on a plastic bag. It came from inside the closet. My chest tightened. I froze, listening, but it came again. A soft shuffle, then the sound of something brushing against the door. I didn't stay to find out what it was. I bolted. Straight out the room, down the stairs, into the sea of drunk and sweaty people still partying like nothing happened. I spotted Tyler near the kitchen, grabbed his arm, and dragged him toward the door. We didn't stop running until we were back in his car. When I finally caught my breath, I told him everything about the drink, the blackout, and waking up in that room. He wanted to call the cops, but I told him not to. It felt pointless. Besides, I didn't even know what house it really was, or who the guy was that gave me the drink. He asked the question I didn't want to hear. "Do you think they did something to you?" I checked myself. My clothes were all on. No bruises, no pain, nothing. And when I looked at the clock, I realized I'd only been gone about 10 minutes. Whatever that guy gave me, it didn't work like he wanted it to. We never spoke about that night again. Tyler ended up joining a different frat the next semester. I never went to another frat party again. That completes our 3 true college horror stories. If you enjoyed hearing these, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another creepy tale. Do you have a story from your dorm, campus, or a late-night encounter you think belongs here? Drop it in the comments. Thank you for watching. Stay alert. Stay safe. And until next time, good night.